Hello everyone, and welcome to the third or fourth development Devblog AMA and beer drinking session. I hope everyone is doing well. So this AMA is going to be a bit different than the other ones because in previous AMAs I've had pre-recorded footage that I prepared. And in this one, I'm actually just playing the game and talking to you live. So that probably means stuff will go a little bit slower and I'll be a bit more distracted because it's hard to play a game, read questions, and answer them all at the same time. However, I will do my best. So, the main topics I want to be touching on this month, a lot of work has been done, and I'll touch on some of those areas. However, the main thing I want to discuss today is what we call machines right now. There'll be some better title for it in-game. However, what machines are is stuff like your oxygen producers, your heaters, your etc. So, stuff like this. So this is an arc furnace. In here, you place a battery to run it, because at the moment in the Mars 1 version of the game, everything will run on these universal batteries. But for example, you put a battery in, put some iron ore in, turn it on, it'll start using the energy from the battery and producing iron ingots from, it worked. It's like, so what I'm going to be discussing today is not just all the machines that we have working, and ignore the fact it's on fire. That is, we'll call that a feature, not a bug. What we're going to be doing today is walking you through all the different machines that we have working in the game right now, and also discuss their entire production pipeline, from the game design elements of figuring out what machines we want to have and why we want each one, to the concepting phase. I'll show you the concept art for them, and then the end product of each one of those passes is the final machine that you have in game. So let's start out by jumping into the concept art for each one. Let me edit what I'm screen sharing here and change this to photos. Done. Okay, cool. So we're going to start with the arc furnace, which for those of you who know what an arc furnace is on Earth, it's the way most metalloids are processed from raw ores into final ingots or into a usable material. It's actually quite interesting how they work. Basically, if you take two electrical leads and get them close to each other, how a spark will jump between the two. That spark is also ridiculously hot, and an arc furnace is a massive, massive machine that superheats metals using that phenomenon scaled up to a massive scale. So what we have here is is kind of our more scaled down portable version of an arc furnace. Obviously, like, as we're still in development, the visuals will improve a lot, and there'll be a lot more animations. For example, as you notice in the concept art, the area on the left, there's a ore deposit. I'm not sure if you guys, can you see my mouse? I don't think it's actually screen grabbing my mouse. That kind of sucks. Oh well. So on the left you have an ore deposit, which is where you would put the raw ores into, and then the control rods are those 3 bars along the top, which once fully animated would be lowering down into the smelting furnace itself and heating up and glowing. Whereas in game, as you guys saw, at the moment they're just completely glowing, and the kind of the doors here are not animated, and this other door isn't animated, nor is the little screen here. However, as you can see, it works. So I've used up the battery now. It stopped smelting stuff. Also notice the fire went out, and I can't turn it back on. That's because there's no more battery energy. That fire, as I said, wasn't a bug. It was technically a feature. It was just an easy way for us developers to like keep track of, is it actually stopping working when the battery runs out? So if I take out the empty battery, put in a full one, turn it back on, the fire turns on again. Once again, ignore that. That's just kind of placeholder stuff, but it gets back to work, burning up the energy and making more iron ingots. Also, ignore the materials I'm referring to right now. My priority with development always is get stuff functional, start playtesting it, get somewhere fun, and then kind of the last step is the renaming and theming of stuff. Realistically, one of the most common resources that we'd be using on Mars would be ceramics, because there's a crap ton of them. So whereas here I'm using iron as the tier 1 resource, that would probably be something else, because iron actually isn't the most common metal on Mars. Copper may be more probable, but anyway, you get the idea. Right here, all I'm doing is talking about gameplay and systems and mechanics and stuff like that, not like how stuff will be titled in the end. Oops. So now the next problem, where this battery is going to run out pretty soon, so we're going to need a way to charge the batteries. So that brings us to let me do this professionally and show you concept art first. That will bring us to here, the hydrogen generator. Now this is a machine that you input hydrogen, which has been processed from waters or from other elements of the environment collected from the atmosphere, and you will take that item, that resource, and put it into this generator, and then this generator will burn that hydrogen, producing electrical energy. And in the Mars 1 version, like the first playable version of the game, it will charge batteries with that energy. Later on, this is actually going to be changed to a wired generator. So you would build this hydrogen generator. Let's get back in game and I'll build it and talk to you from there. So, so here it is in game. At the moment, as I said, you put hydrogen in, which at the moment we're just calling fuel. As I said, placeholder stuff, placeholder names, and then you put in an empty battery, turn it on, starts burning the fuel, charging the battery. At the moment, it's charging batteries, but what we will be doing in Mars 2, so the second playable version that we'll be putting out, is this specific generator will actually be a wired system where, you're trying to see it here, those are 6 outlets, and you will connect this generator directly to the arc furnace, and then the arc furnace will be running on the power that this generator is providing via burning the hydrogen. So from Mars 2 onwards, the arc generator wouldn't run on batteries. It would run by an electrical system that you would connect it up to this kind, like this generator or solar generators or fusion generators, etc. But for Mars 1, because the cabling system still has a lot of complexities we haven't decided on how best to solve, because at the end of the day, for those of you who don't do software development or game development, it really all comes down to compromises. Like, you're either compromising quality or ease of use or ease of development or efficiency in terms of running on the hardware, and it's about finding like what's the best balance between all those compromises. And with like grabbing a wire, plugging it in here, going over here and plugging it into this machine, there's a lot of compromises, like how that wire visually works. Like drawing a straight line between the two would be super easy, but it would look fucking horrible. Oops, sorry. But it would look horrible. So for that reason, in Mars 1, everything's just going to run on batteries or hydrogen. And yeah, so I guess here, we can turn this off so it's not burning anymore. We need to take that full battery. Let's check this out. This is almost done. We'll put this full battery in here so it can keep smelting more iron. May as well put this battery back here to charge. So next thing we need to do is deal with some... Oh wait. Next thing we need to do is I need to add some more oxygen to my suit. If you'll notice on the left side of the screen, I have my O2 bar, which is at 160 centiliters right now. So it is burning really quickly. So I hacked an oxygen bottle into my inventory, so I'll refill my suit's oxygen quickly, so I don't run out of oxygen and die in the middle of the stream. Because I've spent so long talking to you guys and preparing this that I haven't actually built the rest of my base. So I'll get back to building it quickly. So at least I can make it airtight and show you guys some of the other machines and how they work. So, oh, I am out of raw iron. I'll just steal it from there. So now you see the reason why up until now I didn't, I was talking over canned footage in the streams, because as you see it's kind of hard to talk and build at the same time. Also, for some reason, instead of just making my life easy, I decided to make like a weird complicated base. Not sure if you noticed, but it's like this weird shape. But I really like base building, so I kind of couldn't help myself. Let me make sure that goes there, that goes there, that goes there. Oh, and for those who don't know, like in the other streams, at the end of the, once I'm done kind of showing you all the Devblog stuff, then I will be, oh, am I out of iron again? Yes, I am. Okay, so I need to hack me some. Get item. Yeah. Raw iron. Okay. Yeah, as with all the Devblog AMAs, at the end of the, once I'm done showing all the development for this month, then I'll go through all the questions, read them through. So just ask your questions in chat, and I will get to all of them. I don't think there's enough structural integrity for this. Hey, there was. Cool. So now I need to just upgrade everything. Ah, they're all backwards. That's tragic. What I mean by backwards is this is actually what should be on the outside, but I wasn't paying attention when I placed the walls. But I'm kind of OCD, so you may just need to watch me fix them all. We'll see. So the reason why I need to upgrade everything is because the base scaffolding isn't airtight, like as you can see. It's not airtight, meaning that even if I put an oxygen generator in here, it won't actually be able to produce any oxygen, because, well, there it is. Like, it'll just escape. The building can't hold an atmosphere as it is. So just give me a moment to finish upgrading my little base. Yeah. I maybe should have done this off the stream, but well, I think we should be good. Yeah. Okay. So let's put an oxygen generator in here, an atmosphere generator. For those of you, oh wait, I need to do the whole, like, show you the concept art first, like a real presenter. Let's go photos. Done. Okay. For those of you who were here last stream, I think it was, we showed you a placeholder oxygen generator, which looked like a toilet. Since then, we decided that we needed to, like, actually properly redesign it. So this is the new oxygen generator. It is mounted on walls. So you can put it as high up a wall. If you build a base where, like, the internal environment of a specific room is like 3 walls high, you can put this anywhere along the wall that you want to. The idea also being, in terms of design language, you'll notice there's kind of 3 segments. There's the bottom segment, the middle flat segment, and then there's the top segment. For future machines that we build into walls, we're going to follow this style of design language where there'll be a bottom large segment that takes up about 50%, and then 30%, and then 20% in this arrangement. I guess it's really hard to explain the logic behind that design language without actually having my tablet connected and be able to draw stuff for you, but it's good design principles to follow a consistent design language for stuff that's placed on walls. Yeah. In a future AMA, I'll have our lead concept artist on with me, and we can actually discuss this stuff in more detail. All the concept art that you have seen thus far on this stream was all done by our art director, is the proper term, Spiros Karkavalas, who is an awesome guy. I've worked with him on previous projects. I've known him now for like 6 years, and I am so grateful that we were able to get him onto the team because he does just great sci-fi design. He's also the one who's been designing the vehicles, so the Click Beetle, for example, and the Shire HTLV, which you guys have seen. Those were also both designed in part by him and by one of our other concept artists, Anderzak. Both of those vehicles, they both worked on together. Anyway, let's get back in game and show you. So here, oxygen thingy is done. I don't have a battery. Where's the battery? Is there a battery? Oh, that battery's empty. Is there a battery charging? Haha, I put it. Well, let's turn this off. Take the full battery and put the full battery in here and turn it on. Why can't I turn it on? Oh, wait, I forgot to put a door. My bad. So you can't turn it on if it physically can't hold an atmosphere. So, assuming I'm a competent developer, it should work now. Bam! Yes. So right now it's filling the room with oxygen. That's why the light's red. It is working, and you'll see it's burning battery power. And when it's green, now the room is filled with oxygen. And you'll notice that the oxygen counter in the bottom left of my suit has stopped going down. It stayed at 508 centiliters. So, but if I open the door, it will break the atmospheric, the air tightness of the room. And you see, now there's no light anymore, and my suit's oxygen has continued going down again. So, let me close the door and turn it back on again. And you guys also just realized why you need airlocks, and why airlocks are a good idea. Because the larger the room is, the longer it takes to pressurize, and the oxygen producer, the atmosphere producer, burns a lot more energy while it's trying to pressurize a room versus maintaining it. So once the light goes green, and now it's just maintaining the room pressure, it's burning 1/10 the energy that it does in that initial stage. So if you, let's build this. Let's build us a little airlock. Oh crap, I have no more iron. Oh wait, let's put this battery over here just to be charging in the meantime. And I need to hack myself a bit more iron. Get item. No, that was, oh, I hope that wasn't something. Get all. Should be fine. Get item, what was it that I need? Iron ore. Put one in here. Okay. Then we need a doorway and a ceiling. Fine. I'll build stairs. Oh. Okay, so let's upgrade that. Oh, and the floor. Okay, so now, theoretically, should be able to turn on the oxygen generator. Oh. Okay, so it has generated oxygen. Now if I open this door, theoretically, yes! Oh, I got stuck against the wall. So now, oxygen generator is still on. Can we close this door. Can I see it through the window? Okay, yeah. You can see the oxygen generator is still on. That other room is still pressurized. The room I'm in, though, is not. Notice I'm losing atmosphere, like I'm losing my suit's oxygen right now. It's at like 386 and going down. If I open this door, stops, because now I'm part of this pressurized room. Okay, so close it, and then open the exterior door. You see, that interior room is still pressurized. So through that whole time, that interior room never lost its pressurization, because the airtight system works. And this is kind of a sign of how I like to design systems in general, because we didn't build an airlock that you place that does a thing. We created a room airtight system and an atmosphere generation and maintenance system, which is realistic enough that that it's like a real world problem, and real world solutions to that problem work, like airlocks. Like, we didn't design an airlock system, it's just because we modeled it to try and be as realistic as possible without like it being impossible to develop or being too expensive to run on the servers and stuff. Real world solutions fix stuff. Before we continue this AMA, I need to fix this because it's really messing with my OCD. Having like half the walls inside out, it was just that was horrible. Okay, much better now. However, I'm gonna hack myself. Get item. I need to refill my suit oxygen again, because I'm gonna be opening the doors and doing other stuff. Just, dying midstream would be embarrassing. It happens to all guys at some point in their life, but I don't want it to happen on my stream. Next thing, heater. I've showed you guys this before, though. Turn on. It's heating stuff. It's literally on fire. So, yeah, that... and there should be some more machines. Oh yeah, there is this battery charger, which lets oh, I just noticed the bug. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to see the floor through that. Anyway, let's show you the concept art. I mixed up the order again. No. Alright, here is that battery charger. It can charge 8 batteries at a time, and the idea is that you hook that up to the hydrogen generator, and that's what allows you to charge stuff. Next thing I'm going to show you guys is the Fabricator. This is what's used to craft most of the machines that you've seen, and also stuff like the blueprint, the building tool and upgrading tool, and oxygen generators, all this stuff are built with a Fabricator, and I will show you guys that now. Let me get back to showing you in-game stuff. I really should be better at this, but okay. But do I already have a? Yeah, haven't upgraded that icon. My base is really tight. This is not gonna fit anywhere. I should have thought through that better. Yeah, that's not gonna fit anywhere. Alright, so let's solve this problem. Well, how do we solve this problem? Can I fit stairs somewhere in here? That's it. Can I? Let's destroy that. Can I fit? I feel like I should be able to fit stairs there. Oops. No, it won't let me put stairs there. Oh wait, it's because I don't have enough. No, I should have enough. Not sure why it's... Wait a minute. I have a sneaking suspicion that I just found a bug. No. Well, yes, but that doesn't solve it. Okay, anyway, we'll build a fabricator outside. Because we don't need no house. Is that big enough for it? Yeah. And here is the Fabricator, which once again runs on fuel. And there is a UI glitch here. We should be able to see a crafting menu, but we don't. Anyway, there's still a lot of work to be done, as you can see, but we're getting there. It's I think have I covered all the machines that we have working right now? Let's go back to the concept art. So start from the art furnace. I discussed battery charging, like cluster charger. I discussed fabricator. Discussed hydrogen, oxygen. This is the remember the oxygen bottles that I've been using to refill my suit's oxygen. This is the machine that refills those oxygen bottles, which we don't have in game yet, but we probably will in the next couple days. And this will run on batteries, and it will introduce the oxygen bottle you see on the right. It will. Oh, you don't see it because of chat. If I move chat here. Okay, see the oxygen bottle on the right? That will be introducing into a new inventory item in the game, and that is what I was using to refill my suit's oxygen. And you'll put your empty oxygen bottles in this little like field generator along with a battery, and it can refill one oxygen bottle at a time, which means it's pretty slow and not very efficient. But this is meant as like the tier 0 oxygen system, oxygen solution, and then moving up from there, there'll be larger, more expensive stuff. But it's kind of assumed that any player will be able to scrounge the parts together to build this and get it up and running quite quickly. So what other stuff to... Oh, and this is super cool. I can't wait to get this working in the game. It's not in yet, but this will be the smallest solar panel. So in the same way that the hydrogen generator in here can generate electricity, which in Mars 2 and onwards you'll be able to like plug into other machines, this solar powered solar generator effectively will do the same thing. However, it will be limited by day-night cycles and stuff like dust storms. However, this specific one will be quite small. It won't generate a lot of energy, but as you can see here from the concept art, it can collapse in on itself and then bury itself underground, so it won't take damage from dust storms. There will be other solar panel options which may be more cost-effective per watt of energy produced. However, they would be more susceptible to dust storm damage, which is it's a pretty big concern for the solar generators on Mars. Oh, I'm freezing to death. Turn on. Am I still? Oh, maybe too late. You will notice that it was really, really cold. Yeah, notice on the... Oh, wait, let me actually... I was not screen sharing the game when I was saying that stuff. Edit scene. Okay. Notice how my character's health is only at 7. I almost died because I almost froze to death, because outside it's -2 degrees. See in the bottom right of the screen, -2. Because as you see also by the time of day, we're reaching the evening time right now. The surface temperature is dropping dramatically, and if I'm next to the heater while it's running, it's raising my body temperature. But if I go back outside right now, you'll see it quickly starts dropping. And I wasn't paying attention while I was... Let's turn that on as well. Why can't I turn that on? The doors are closed. The battery? Oh, I died. That's embarrassing. I wasn't paying attention to something, clearly. Single player. I wasn't saving that, so I'm not sure when the last autosave was. Oh, hey! That worked better than expected. Cool. Oh, that's why I couldn't turn the... Remember why I was trying to turn the generator on, and I couldn't turn it back on? Because I forgot. I destroyed that ceiling panel and never replaced it, so the room wasn't airtight. Do I have... Yeah, I do. Now I should be able to turn this on again. Yep, that was my mistake. I'm in a similar situation with my temperature, though. So I think that covers all the machines that we have working in the game right now. In Mars 1, the first playable version that we should have out to you guys pretty soon, there's a few more that haven't been added yet, like the oxygen bottle refilling machine, as well as the little sunflower solar array, and I think there's one or two more machines. I know there's one or two more machines that I haven't covered right now. I can't remember off the top of my head which ones they are, but you get the gist of it. That's how machines work and why they work, and yeah. So let me switch to just showing you guys now some footage so I can pay attention to... Yeah, okay. Now I've just gone back. This is the same footage you guys saw in the last AMA. I just went back to playing this so that I can focus more on answering questions and discussing things versus playing the game. So a few other updates I want to discuss. I'm assuming most of you guys read the Devblog progress update about the Mars 1 version of the game, which will be the first single-player version. Oh, crap. Were you guys listening to the oxygen? I muted that. I just noticed that someone commented that the sound of the oxygen generator is pretty annoying. Yes, it's horrifically annoying. I meant to mute that. I am so sorry you guys were listening to that this entire time. No, absolutely, like 1% of work has been done on sound effects and music and that stuff. So yeah, I apologize that you were not meant to be hearing that. Sorry about that. What was I saying? So yeah, the first version, Mars 1, will be out fairly soon. We're on schedule for our Q2 release, and that will be a single player version of the game. It'll include all the systems you've seen so far, with a few more as well. The systems right now that we're finishing up for that version we're missing a few more machines, as I discussed. We're also in the final stages of getting the mining system working. And the way that will work is you will explore the environment around you, scan rocks to see what minerals they have inside of them, and then mine those rocks to get those like raw ores. You can mine any rock you want without scanning it first, but then you won't know what you're going to be getting, and it's very possible you'll be wasting a lot of your time and like battery and suit oxygen doing like breaking apart rocks that have nothing of value or nothing of interest to you. So the mining and scanning system work pretty well. They're about 60-70% done. They still need a lot more QA work. And the reason why I didn't show it to you right now is because we're sorting out the way that we scatter the mineable ore nodes, these mineable rocks throughout the map, like the logic to it, because you should find clusters of materials. There should be some things that are more common in different areas. So that is one of the main features that are still missing for Mars 1. And also we are in the process of rebuilding, of generating the first accurate rendition of a Mars land NFT. I'll actually show that to you guys, because it's a super interesting problem. No, you know what? I'll leave that. I'll drop a picture in the Discord game leaks, but I'm actually gonna leave that discussion until the next AMA, or the next devblog that I'll write, because it's super interesting the problems we ran into with what data was lacking from the NASA height maps, and how we solved that using other completely unrelated data from Roscosmos, I think. But I'll compile that together, because it's too cool of a story as a whole to just like spoil here. And yeah, I think that covers what we're lacking for Mars 1. And I think I'm ready to get to questions. So, I'm going to start with the questions that people left on Discord. So the first series of questions are from Max Cooper. And the questions start at 10, which is concerning. That makes me think maybe someone didn't copy the questions properly. So Max, if we are missing 9 of your questions, I apologize. You can paste them in the chat if you're around. If not, as always, you guys can find me on Discord, and I do my best to answer questions there as well. First question is, will food have an expiration date? Will food have an expiration date? No, probably not. We can do it, like we have the systems. If we want to add it, technically it'd be very easy to do, but that's... As a game developer, I think it's important not to be an asshole to your players and being like, oh, you're starving. Oh, but you open your refrigerator and all your food's bad, so you're gonna die. And you paid real money for that food. That really feels like venturing into the realm of being an asshole as a game developer. So probably not. There may be some kind of food, like maybe when it comes to growing and harvesting vegetables and plants and so forth, there may be some situations where it could go off. For example, if you don't harvest it in time and just leave it on the vine indefinitely, in those situations I could see it going off, because then we would be punishing and rewarding people for like actually putting energy into harvesting their crops and so forth. So there's an argument to be made there, but I'm not a fan of the idea of someone expecting that they have food they can eat, opening up their refrigerator or food preserving machine, and finding it's all gone off and they're going to starve to death. That I don't like it. Will it be possible to buy finished buildings without building them yourself? That is also something I'm not really a big fan of, for a totally different reason. We may figure out some way to incorporate it, but in general, if you want something and you don't want to do it yourself, that's the beauty of pay-to-earn games, is that you give the community tools so they can pay other players to do it. So that's I would much rather create a better system for players to be able to pay other people to build their bases than just have them buy a pre-built prefab base from us. So once again, though, it's still quite early to make a final statement on that. As I've reiterated on every AMA, the way I make games: get something playable, get it into people's hands, get feedback, and find what's fun, work it out live. Because on paper, like, everything's a good game design decision on paper. You can justify any decision on paper, but you need to actually play something to really know if it's a good idea or not, or if it's genuinely fun. Every game designer has a story of a feature that they thought was a brilliant idea, and they invested months of work to get it working, only to actually get it working and play it and realize that it was horrible and could even like have not only was it a waste of time, but it actually had a negative impact on the rest of the game. Everyone's lived through that, so it's for that reason I prefer to test things live instead of just in theory. Next question. Construction in craters. Will it be possible to build something in a crater, and could you get out of the crater? And can you carve roads out of Martian soil? Yes, you can build stuff in craters. Yes, you can get out of craters as well. Some are harder to get out of than others, but worst case scenario, you can just build a tower and then a ramp near the edge so you can get in and out quite easily. Ooh, that reminds me, elevators. I need to get elevators working. Anyway, sidetrack, sorry. And be able to carve roads out of Martian soil, most likely not. Because remember, we have to deal with 10,000 unique maps. 100,000 unique maps. And storing 100,000 unique maps worth of data at high quality is thousands of terabytes or hundreds of terabytes of data already. And I'll explain in a later AMA like how we're going to deal with that so that the game isn't just 1,000 terabytes. So like you don't have to worry about that, but I'll discuss that in a later meeting. But if we then add terrain deformation and we allow people to be actively modifying and customizing every one of those maps and like digging into the ground, that enters into it makes an incredibly hard problem, basically impossible to solve. But you'll be able to build roads on top of the soil. So like think elevated highway style or just think elevated highway style. Like that kind of stuff you will be able to do quite easily, but we won't be able to carve roads into the ground. Like you won't be able to manipulate the Martian surface. What is the soil of Mars like? Solid or like a rock? Honestly, not that far off from Earth. You have a mixture of dirts, sands, rocks. There's quite a wide variety. So there's a bit of everything. But in terms of there's a bit of everything. Will the time in the game run the same as clock in real world time? I'm assuming, yeah. No, it won't. We'll speed up the time in the game because, first of all, if we stuck with fully real world time, stuff like hunger and thirst would take ages to go down and it's not really a consumable commodity anymore. And secondly, it would really suck for, let's say, if we used real world timing, so that the day-night cycle would be about 24 hours like it is on Mars, then someone who can only game for, let's say, 3 hours a day at a specific time segment, that time segment may just always be in the middle of the night. And they just get screwed because, well, that's where you live. That's your free time. So what we'll be doing is the day-night cycle, at least in Mars 1, we'll be testing this out, having the day-night cycle be 1 hour long. So there's about like 30 to 45 minutes of workable daylight and then 15 minutes of full darkness when like the temperatures really drop the most. And that's what we'll be using in Mars 1, and we'll see how that plays. As I said, we'll see if that's fun, and based on your guys' feedback, we'll tweak it from there. But I'm pretty confident that we'll be sticking to that, or close to that. Will it be possible to build at night, or will we freeze? Well, as you saw live, you can build at night, but you do need to be very cautious about your temperature. And here's where different suits and stuff like that will come into play. However, those things won't be involved in Mars 1. In Mars 1, we're still just using this placeholder astronaut, and we'll be sorting out all the character systems, such as upgrading your suits, upgrading thermal insulation, all that stuff will be in a future version of the game. Will it be possible to sell electricity? What types of electricity will be available to us besides solar panels? I covered a lot of that in what I was showing already. You have hydrogen producers, you will have nuclear energy producers, stuff like that as well. And you can sell it, you will be able to sell it in the form of batteries very easily. However, in addition to that, we are looking at trying to come up with some way to sell energy and trade energy in general. However, how exactly we would do that, I'm not sure yet. It's quite a complicated topic, It would rely on knowing that there is an infrastructure grid across all lands, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to pull it off. I would love the idea of being able to do that, and maybe what we would do is just introduce some kind of like super battery that's like the size of a car, and that allows you to like charge it up from large power stations and sell that on the market, and people could buy that battery, place it, and use it as if it was a generator for like a couple of days or something, and that would make electricity at that scale be more like a commodity. However, I'm not sure exactly how we would pull that off yet. In any way other than what I just explained. The like car-sized battery, that's pretty easy to do. But other than that, not sure how we would do that. For what time period will it be possible to rent out land plots, and will binding be in real world or game time? How exactly that we'll be dealing with that is something we need to play test more. The binding would probably be in real world time because there's no reason to use in-game time for that. How exactly we'll do that, we'll need to play test, because there is a lot of concerns in terms of balancing freedom of letting players customize contracts to be whatever they want them to be, and at the same time making a system that's kind of robust and easy to develop. So ideally we would like, referencing back to the land governance system, we would like some fairly simple, robust contract system where you can give them a land plot and they can work on that for an X amount of time, and to leave that as open-ended as possible for the landlord, like landowner and player, to negotiate and come to an agreement, instead of giving them like a template or like something that they have to work from. Will it be possible to walk on Mars like in Sand or Decentraland, where we just walk through without thinking about oxygen, food, and other things? And will it be a separate kind of world in some other way? No. Right, you will always, I think the unique thing that we are offering, like the key selling point of Mars, is that it is a fairly immersive Mars experience. So we obviously don't want to limit players so that they can't just walk around and explore. You will be able to, but you will need to have some minimum investment of food and oxygen. But as you saw while I was playing, like, you have a lot of time. Actually, oxygen burns a little bit too fast in this current version, but you do have a lot of time, and like buying a couple bottles of oxygen or crafting a couple just to go and walk around for ages, that's not going to be very limited. It's not going to be hard to do. And in addition to that, we have vehicles as well. I imagine most exploration you'll be wanting to do in vehicles, and in vehicles there'll be some vehicles that are more specifically catered to that, to being very fuel efficient, to being very economical. They don't have a lot of transport capacity, and they don't offer other bells and whistles, but they're just great for passively exploring the land and still gaining some value by that exploration, by finding rare resource nodes and stuff like that. So the goal is to not only let the player explore Mars kind of passively, but also be able to make a profit from that by finding things of value along the way. That's much more our goal. We know that there will be a global market through a command and control panel, but let's say someone bought a product from us and came to pick it up. Should a person give it to them, or will there be an NPC or a self-service system? The idea is to have as much of a self-service system as possible, because the goal and the reason why we built the command and control center, the Mars Command Center, the reason we built the Mars Command Center in a browser is specifically so people can be on their phone or on any platform and still be trading, still be interacting with the game and the economy without needing to have the game client running. Which means that obviously it's necessary then, again, on the game client to be able to enact those trades, to be able to do those things without other people there. Because we want to be able to keep the economy as fluid and evolving as possible, as quick as possible, so that as many people use it as possible, so that like landlords and stuff are making as much profit as possible. Uh, Tell us what exoskeletons will be. As I understand, in the first AMA, the player had an exoskeleton, and in the second, he was in a basic suit. Yes. There will be kind of two categories of exoskeleton. Their terminologies are not set right now. As I said, like, naming stuff isn't the most important part of game development. But there will be upgrades to your own suit, which is what you saw in the first AMA, where stuff that would let you carry more weight, move faster, etc. And then there will also be heavier exoskeletons, which are more bordering on mini mechs, which are used for mining and transporting of super heavy goods and stuff like that, but primarily used for mining. Like, the highest tier of mining, we would assume would be done mostly with these kind of mini mechs. People who need oxygen, water, food, and so on, should a person sell that to them, or will there be a separate vending machine for these resources in the form of soda? Also, oxygen and water are the two types we get to refuel our suit by gallons. Tell us about these systems. In terms of oxygen and refueling your suit, I've kind of already explained that in this AMA. I've already shown it working in this AMA, how it works. In terms of where you would buy them, you can craft them yourself. I would like to have some sort of self-service systems that people could set up so any passerby could come by and just buy some commonly used consumables. On Mars, in Mars 1 and 2, can we have multiple colonists on the same lots? Probably not. Because in Mars 1, definitely not. In Mars 2, we'll see. In Mars 1, there's no real point in having multiple colonists because there isn't any colonist customization yet. So there's no difference to it. In Mars 2, we'll see if there is a gameplay reason to support it, then yes. But otherwise, probably not. I think we'd probably only start introducing that in Mars 3. Because at that point in time, then you have co-op, you're playing with other players there, and there's a value of you, like, having your engineering colonists that you've leveled up already, and so forth. So I'm renting a plot, but then I decide that I want to play with it myself and terminate the lease. But the colonist has buildings there. Do I need to compensate them for them or something? That something also falls into what I was discussing before of the grander... just blanked out on the name. Land governance system. So the idea is to give a framework to players where they can work out these details between each other. But primarily, like, the colonist wouldn't be linked to anything. Like, colonists can go anywhere and do whatever. So even if you kick them off your land, like, they can do whatever they want. What happens to the structures that the colonists built is complicated because logically they would stay there. What we would probably do is... what we would expect to probably happen is that a termination of a lease would have X amount of time, and there would be, like, a buffer time. And the colonists would need to, like, destroy... Well, not need to, but would be able to deconstruct what he built to get some raw resources back. However, I think this shows a reason why colonists will rarely want to invest too much of their time and resources into a land plot that they're renting in a temporary fashion, because of this exact reason. So this is why, as I discussed on my previous AMA, my slumlord philosophy of at least what I'll be doing with my few land plots, where I just let anyone build whatever they want. There's no first come, first serve, no land plots, limitations, anything. Just the amount of land there is, anyone can come to it, anyone can use it for as long as they want, because then people will be willing to, colonists will be willing, well, free players, or non-land owning players, will be more motivated to invest their time there because they know I'll never evict them, which means just there's more trade going through my lands, and I'll benefit from that more activity in kind of an anarchistic way, but I don't really care. That's fine with me. So I think you'll see a lot more of that. Okay, next set of questions from Trout. For economy to function properly, there needs to be winners and losers. Please discuss the top 3 ways that players will lose Mars for dollars in the game. Oh, just like in real world economies, like the main way everyone loses is by paying for stuff that they need. So first one, paying for stuff that you need, like oxygen, water, food, etc. And then paying for stuff that you want, like vehicles and some rare resources, rare colonist upgrades, and yeah, that's the majority of and all of the Mars $4 loss would be in purchasing stuff in the market. So the way that players lose is the same way players are gaining. But just like in the real world, it's not like your money doesn't just disappear for no reason. Like, you buy something with it and you're exchanging your money and you're losing some of your money and you're getting something else. And then the way that you're really a loser is if you exchange your Mars $4 for something else, and then that something else decreases in value, or the Mars $4 increase in value. Same way in the real world. If you buy a car, like the real losers isn't someone who buys a car. You buy a car and then wreck it the next day before you went and got insurance for it. That's the real loser. So it's that same system in Mars 4. It's the same kind of philosophy. Please discuss how and when players will be able to develop their own games. Will it be similar to Roblox? And how will these be integrated in the overall survival game? The ability for players to design their own mechanics in the experiences is very far off in the future. That's something after Mars 4. My priority is to make sure we first have a fun, functional pay-to-earn game, a play-to-earn game, and then be allowing players to be interacting and expanding on it in a step-by-step basis. So, like, first steps would just be creating items for the game and like paint jobs for vehicles, decorations for people's buildings, and selling them on the market. That would be the first stage of player-built content, and then from there we'll go growing. But my priority is to get a good, enjoyable foundation for everyone, and because having something like Roblox only works once you've reached a critical mass of users, and if that critical mass dips for whatever reason, the game can just die out. So I believe in kind of a more classical philosophy in game design, where get something good and fun as a foundation that's always there, and then once you have that, then start letting people build on top of it. I don't want to rely solely on other people creating the fun for our players. I want to make sure that I build some minimum level of fun, and then people can go expanding on it from there. Have you considered partnering with projects like VR Chat and allowing developers to integrate Mars 4 into that ecosystem? We have I think we are in talks with a few different groups. I'm not sure who exactly, because that's not my department, but I oversee it. I overread, I guess it, in the different management Telegram groups. However, it's that same description that I just gave in my previous comment. My focus is to get a good, solid, playable game foundation up and working as soon as possible, and then start looking at how to be improving on that foundation. And partnerships kind of fall under that. But there are other people in the Mars 4 company that are focusing specifically on partnerships, like what we did with KuCoin and that kind of stuff. So that's in the works. That's just not my department. I'm not focusing on that too much. Will there be an official historian for Mars 4, a person dedicated to documenting the evolution of the game and planet, as well as important events and decisions? Yes. No, actually not. Yes. That would be our writer, who has written a ClickBeetle story, and he's written a whole bunch of other stuff I don't think is public yet. He also wrote the Peace on Mars story, which is kind of eerily beautiful considering the modern place the world is in. The story was written like 2 months before what's going on in Ukraine kicked off, and that the fact that it's just But yes, that's something that Chris actually has experience in other games. He's written for quite a few these kinds of universes, and I foresee that what we would be doing is keeping track of events in the game and specific things that happen that have kind of a more global effect on all of the Mars 4 players and ecosystem. We would highlight, and he would write a story commemorating it and kind of I don't know what the right word would be, but write it into history so that anyone could find that. Write it into the annals of Mars 4. Will there be a central bank for Mars 4, a body that is responsible for lending out Mars 4 dollars, setting up interest rates, the economy? Will players have the ability to establish these banks, borrow from central banks, lend to other players? That would fall under the contract system that I've discussed in the past. I want to give players the ability to set up a contract where each person can request things from each other. This would be used to be able to hire someone to transport goods across Mars, or theoretically a lending agreement where I agree to pay you 5,000 Mars dollars and you agree to pay me 1,000 Mars dollars over the next 6 months, like each month or something like that. So that would fit into that. There is no plans for a Mars central bank that we run or something, but the goal is to create a system like that where if players really wanted to, they could set one up using that same job system. How many developers do you have working on Mars 4, and what are the plan? And do you have plans to increase team size? At the moment, I think we're around 14 people. Yeah, 14. And yeah, we do have plans to increase, and basically every month we're adding 2 or 3 people onto the team. However, I am adamantly trying to add as few people as possible, just to as necessary, because there is a trap in software development in general, but specifically game development. Adding more engineers to a problem does not make the problem get fixed sooner. It makes it get fixed. It makes it slower. And adding inexperienced engineers onto the team slows down progress. I think it was Ubisoft that actually wrote this officially and showed the stats for it, but I may be wrong. I may be misquoted, so don't quote me on that. But that junior programmers are net zero progress. They don't actually make any progress. Anything that they do produce ends up getting negated by the additional time that senior programmers need to invest in teaching them and fixing bugs and in improving them and so forth. So junior programmers and more novice developers are a liability, and I think we all had to start somewhere, and that's great. But especially for Mars and in the paid-earn ecosystem, we need to be moving quickly. So I focus on hiring as few people as possible and everyone being as good as possible. Our most junior person has 6 years experience. When I'm hiring people, I will not even I will stop scrolling down the CV the moment I don't see that they have at least 5 years experience and have already launched a game. And it's kind of brutal, but it's effectively, you guys are paying my salary to get this game made, and you have to be kind of heartless in those situations. You have to find people who will be productive as soon as possible. Yeah, but we are still expanding. We are still hiring more. In fact, just yesterday we signed a new 2D artist, and in a couple more days I'm looking at bringing on a additional server engineer. So we are still expanding, but if the team grows really big, I would consider that a failure, not a success. Next questions from Andre. How will this work considering the distance between colonies can extend thousands of miles, crossing different lands of different owners with different road systems? That's a real-world logistical problem that we want players to face. That's why you may want to consider using more vehicles that are more proficient off-road, but vehicles more efficient off-road will have other disadvantages. And that is why you should communicate with your neighbors, why you should try and organize with them, work together with them, set up your logistics so that they integrate together pretty seamlessly. I think these are the challenges that are kind of the second tier of the gameplay. Like, the first level of the gameplay is the challenges of survival, and like you building something on your own and within your own land and making a profit from that. And then the next tier up from that, the next level of challenge, once you've mastered that, once you've conquered your land, is then how can you interact with your neighbors and come up with mutually beneficial systems for everyone. Because you and all of your neighbors building a logistical system that actually like interconnects properly is financially viable, is financially beneficial for everyone. Because if, for example, if everyone builds roads to create specific I'd imagine a blob of lands, all owned by different people. If they all work together to build road networks between all of them, then naturally when people are trading on a global scale, it will route through that blob more often because that blob has invested more in its infrastructure. But if only one person in the middle of it invests, but the people around him don't, that person in the middle isn't going to be getting the benefit from his investment as much. So I think the idea is just create a real world political challenge and give players tools to solve it by working together and let them be off. And the groups of players, the groups of lands that do work together better will literally profit from that cooperation. And I think that's kind of the objective of the game. How are fights between lands? I jumped to the next question. Will players have to drive their vehicles for days in order to deliver goods? No. If they want to, you can drive for days. However, as I discussed in previous AMA, there will be a transportation system built into the marketplace, so you can pay directly for transportation of goods and stuff like that. Or you can work as a transporter, driving yourself, and you would get paid for it. But it's not a necessity. How will a driver know the best route between two distant lands? They'll have to figure it out. That's what will separate not good drivers from bad drivers, but that's what will allow a driver to be more profitable than his counterparts. Two people could charge the same amount to transport the same goods between two different locations. If one of them knows an efficient route to get there, because he's done it before, well, he's going to have a higher profit margin because he's not going to be wasting as much of his time or fuel, etc. How will roads from different lands and different owners be connected? Well, they'll just need to coordinate that I end my road here on my land, and well, you end yours more or less in the same place. I'm not expecting that each one will like flawlessly connect, but as long as it's like there's not much off-roading between the two, it's not really a problem. Like, let's say there's a more or less flat patch of ground where the two lands are connected, both can agree to end their roads there, and then you may go off-road for like 30 seconds as you arrive on each land. Not really a problem. Will drivers be allowed to cross all lands? If a landowner has his land set to be enterable by anyone, then yes, drivers can. And if a landowner does make their land completely private, where drivers cannot pass through it, it also means trade won't pass through it. So, like, there's a lot of economic incentives to allow people to pass through your land, and there's no real reason not to. Sorry about that. How will the landowner know where is the best place to build a road? They'll explore their land. In the same way people figure that out in the real world. Like, if you have a massive mountain or a massive crater, maybe a good idea to figure out your road logistic systems to not require going up the mountain or around the crater. You just need to kind of explore your land and figure out the best routing. And if there is no, if the land I think what they're trying to say, if the land next to yours doesn't have any roads or infrastructure, is it worth building roads on your land? Yes, it still would be. Just it helps you get around faster. And even if the one next to you doesn't have one, if yours does have a good infrastructure, there is still a higher probability that trade will be routed through your land. The fact that your neighbor has less does kind of lower your probability of it being routed through, as opposed to a row of multiple lands that all have good infrastructure. However, it is still higher probability. And your own personal use. It's useful for you to get around, to be able to better mine your land, better explore it, transport goods between the bases you've built on your land, etc. Okay, last round of questions that were written from Discord. Are we going to grow potatoes, and what else? Yes, you'll grow potatoes and a series of other vegetables that haven't been decided yet. Potatoes, because obviously you need vodka on Mars, and other vegetables we'll need to read up on some more NAS papers, see what are the most likely candidates, and we'll be incorporating that. The growing system, right now we're working just towards Mars 1, and the farming system won't be in Mars 1, so we haven't finalized those questions yet, because as I said, like, naming isn't that important, and at the end of the day, that's kind of the only difference. Like, from a engineering perspective, the only difference between a potato and a carrot is just a different graphic and a different name, and they may have some different stats, but like the architecture is exactly the same for anything that you grow. How are flights between lands? Okay, that actually makes more sense as a question. What we're thinking is to have some sort of light load rocket system. So it would be something that players would need to build. There would be quite a large launch platform and fuel, etc., and that would allow you to hop around Mars on rocket ships. However, the idea is that's quite a late game thing, and it's pretty expensive. You can also use it to transport goods. However, that's even more expensive, but it is very fast. So, like, you have that balance. What other benefits will craters provide besides water? Water, there'll be other resources to consider. A crater is a meteor that hit. Meteors actually are quite high in metalloids and other resources. For example, I may be wrong on this once again, but I'm fairly sure that the vast majority of the gold in our solar system is actually on meteors in the Oort cloud. Maybe wrong about. No, not the Oort cloud, in the asteroid belt. And so, like, you'll have you'll find those resources that were on the meteor when it struck in those meteor basins, craters, and we're considering what effects it may have on dust clouds. In theory, it would make sense that building a base at the bottom of a meteor may help weather storms, weather high winds. However, it will be colder, because it just inherently means that less sun per day is hitting that area. So there will be some give and take there. I'm not sure exactly. We haven't made a final decision on how that will work yet. That's a great example of something we would put into Mars 1 and 2 and playtest and get community feedback on. What will be the Ethereum or BSC network in the game? I'm not sure what that question is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Will there be a possibility of virtual planning where we can create structures, place objects, etc.? That's kind of how the scaffolding system works already. Notice, like, whenever I'm building something, I first put down this scaffolding and then upgrade it. Scaffolding is ridiculously cheap, and as you saw, scaffolding at the moment is created with iron ore, So like the raw thing that you mine out of the rocks, that obviously the names will change and what the resources are will change. But the idea is that you can basically scaffold out an entire building, a very complex, massive building, for ridiculously cheap. The expensive part is in the upgrading it to be functional, so scaffolding isn't airtight. Colonists consume oxygen, food, water for life. If I don't play for a few days, will I die? No. When you're offline, your colonists are not taking damage from sandstorms or from food or water or whatever. As I mentioned at the beginning of the dev stream, I don't like to be an asshole developer, and you logging back in, oh sorry, you didn't have enough food, you're dead now, is an asshole developer move. What happens to the game world and our bases and colonists when we are not in the game for an extended period of time? They will be taking damage from sandstorms. However, the damage will be quite minimal, and that's one of the main motivators to upgrading your base to like higher structural tiers, is because they weather sandstorms better. So if you had a very low level base, like just a simple tier 1 base, that probably wouldn't last that long without any interaction. Whereas if you had an incredibly well upgraded base, well built, very highly upgraded with good shielding and stuff like that, that could last for an incredibly long period of time before there's any actual change. And there's the same reason why there's, like, for example, you could leave a vehicle out in the open, it will be taking damage while you're offline. It will never get destroyed as in removed. You may come back and it may be at like 0 durability, which means it won't work, but it's not gone. Like, you didn't lose your vehicle NFT. It's just not functional and you'll need to repair it up. You'll need to invest resources in it. But that's a reason for example, building a garage. You build a garage, upgrade the garage to a very high level, put your vehicles inside of it, close the garage doors, and then if there's a sandstorm or anything, the vehicles are protected from that and they won't take any damage at all. Just the base itself will degrade ever so slightly. But if it's high enough tier, then it can last for a ridiculously long time before it actually would break at all. And last question, will Mars 4 allow players to build play on their actual NFTs, or is it just a simulation? No. Not Mars 4. Will Mars 1 allow players to build on their actual NFTs, or is it just a simulation? No. Mars 1 will all take place on, I think it's Mine or one of the other developers' lands. It's land number... I closed all my chat programs so that they wouldn't be annoying me. It's land number 634 something, I think. Anyway, we picked a single land and generated it, and we're to be using that because, as I discussed earlier on in the video, storing 100,000 lands on a server, optimizing all that data, that is a huge task that requires a lot more development time so that it's user-friendly to be interacting with. So for Mars 1 and Mars 2, we'll be picking a land and then generating it. But we'll be generating it using the same pipeline we will eventually be generating all lands with. So it's not just throwaway work. It's like we're working on getting the lands to look correct and to be realistic and how best to work with the NASA data, etc. So yeah, basically everyone will be experiencing what their lands will eventually look like. The quality of their lands will eventually be, just it's all on one, it's all using one specific land that, as I said, I think I or one of the other developers owns. Yeah, so that is all of the questions from Discord. Let me scroll up and see all the questions from Twitch that people have. Trout asked, where are people from? And I think he's from New Orleans. I am from Greece. So someone asked, why is it burning without oxygen? I think they were referring to the fire effects that were being played on the furnace. As I said, that was just a placeholder VFX that just so we can easily see when the furnace is running and when it's not running. It's not a that's going to be gone. That's it. You're looking at something in development, so you see a lot of development hacks and so forth. As I'm sure you've noticed, some of the icons are also light super weird or placeholder, or like the iron ore is literally just like a gray blob, stuff like that. What happens when your character dies? Does his body stay in place or does it respawn elsewhere? The body stays where it dies. In Mars 1, you'll respawn and you'll be able to go back and find your body and pick up the gear and stuff that you had on it. So someone was mentioning that they remembered the toilet air producer. Which you actually see in the stream right now. That thing that you were just seeing in the background of the stream was the toilet air generator. And he was saying, well, at least the air that came out didn't smell that bad. You don't know that for sure. Someone said, does the air generator make that loud noise the whole time? No, that's a placeholder sound effect just so we knew it was working. Really sorry that you guys heard that. That was meant to be muted. Is there a way to have a window yet? Yes, windows are in and working. I just didn't build one. My bad. Sorry. The oxygen generator sound is pretty annoying. Yes, it is. I am so sorry. Will Mars 1 be played on our actual NFTs? No, it's just on, I said, an NFT that one of the developers owns. Because the goal is just to get something out to you guys and start playing as soon as possible. So that's why also Mars 1 is coming out ahead of schedule. Originally, what we were saying, like at the beginning of the year, is you guys wouldn't have your first playable game up until around Q3, like near the end of Q3, and here you are going to be getting Mars 1 in Q2. So part of the reason of why you're getting it so much sooner is because we are just trying to get you what we have now working sooner. So without vehicles, without it being your own personal NFTs, but as you can see, there already is a lot of gameplay there, and there will be even more as we get before you guys get to play it. What's the minimum spec requirements for this game? The graphics seem pretty high quality. They will be changing throughout development. Mars 1, I'm not sure exactly. Mars 1, I'm guessing will probably be like something around like a 980 graphics card, like a 980 GTX. So fairly old by today's standards. However, with graphics cards prices, I think a lot of people are still using stuff like that. But as time goes on, and the future versions of the game, like Mars 2, 3, and 4, those will all be better and better optimized. But as I was just saying, with Mars 1, the priority is to get something in your hands as soon as possible, which means we're not going to be doing a whole lot of additional optimization on it, because that would be going against the concept of Mars 1, which is to get something in your hands as soon as possible. That does mean it's not going to be very well optimized. When do you think we'll have an AMA on the design of the land? I think we could probably do that with the next AMA. Because as I said, like the land that will be in Mars 1 is a land that will be designed and generated. Well, not designed, generated based on the methods we'll generate all lands on. So the way of like using the NASA data and AI procedural generation of additional details, filling in the gaps that we don't have. Just like NASA data isn't flawless. We don't know what every rock looks like. Filling in all those gaps based on geological data that we get, stuff like that. So all that work is well in progress right now. But you're just to have one land for Mars 4. But yeah, the question of when we'll have that in an AMA, maybe next AMA we could do that. Also, Nick, any hints on how roads and bridges will be built? I mentioned it a bit before about how they'll be in the theme of elevated highways, so that way you can just build over the abnormalities of Martian terrain. That's technically the easiest way to do it. As I described before, digging into the terrain, like modified terrain deformation, is not something we can feasibly do with this many unique lands. Someone said, I mentioned an elevator in passing earlier. Said, about the elevator, can you tell us more? For instance, will we be able to drag ice from the bottom and have a colonist using it? An elevator, we haven't sorted out exactly how elevators will work yet. We may try and come up with a more universal system of a mover platform, which you could do up and down, could do side to side, etc. But that won't be in Mars 1, and we still haven't finalized exactly how that will work. But the idea is to try and make it as versatile as possible so you can use it in as many ways as possible. What happens when you find valuable resources on someone else's land? It's a good question. That will be up to how the landlord sets up their land governance rules. They can force X amount of the resources that are mined on their land to be given to them. And by force, I mean it'll just automatically happen. So if you are a total asshole land governor, you could say 100% of all resources mined on your land, you get. Which means when someone else goes to mine a resource, like they'll get a notification that they're not going to get anything. And if they keep mining, it will just keep basically going into their inventory and then going straight into the stockpiles of that landowner. But more balanced options, like as I referenced, my slumlord system, like I'll let people keep 80% of it because I don't care, like, or even 90%. Like, go for it. If you guys be doing all the work to mine it, like, fuck it, I'll take my 10% tax and I'll be totally happy with that. And I believe that that would motivate more people to come and mine on my land so that they get the resources and I just get a little bit. You know, don't be too greedy. That's how it would work. Will the price of items be fixed in USD such that the gameplay will not be impacted by the speculative value of Mars $4? Something we haven't decided on yet, but personally I am a fan of it. I would like if we fix the price in USD or something like that for that exact reason. Also, fixing it in some sort of stable, like fiat currency, will also just make it easier for people to keep track of how much they're actually paying for things. However, none of this has been finalized yet, because like right now the Mars $4 is incredibly volatile because there's so much speculation of will there be a game, or other metaverse games are doing badly sometimes, and then we don't know what's going on. But once everyone's in the game and playing it, that I think the volatility will, I know the volatility will dramatically reduce because, well, the biggest point of speculation in basically any play-to-earn game is there even a game? So, although, like, you guys who are here on the stream and have seen me play it know that, if you just go onto Coinbase or something, you don't. Like, not everyone knows that. It's not as public information, and it's harder than you would think to make it, like, to get everyone to realize how far along the game actually is, because so many people are used to just looking at a website and then looking at a white paper and then assuming that everyone's in more or less the same place. But anyway, that was a tangent on a tangent, my bad. Someone would like to suggest that we have music in the game. Yes, obviously. 100% we will need music. That's actually something I was speaking with some composers, 2 days ago, on Tuesday, about that, and discussing how we go about that. And I think we have some pretty cool ideas we came up with in those brainstorming meetings, and I'll be waiting for some of their first work back. Unlikely that we'll have too much music in Mars 1. Audio and sound effects are not a priority. However, we will be experimenting with some initial stuff, like how dust storms sound and that kind of stuff, and that will be in. But as I said, audio is not a priority for Mars 1. What are the consequences of death in the game? So the consequences will change in each version of the game. Like in Mars 1, there isn't really a consequence. We may make it so you lose all resources that are on your character when you die. That's undecided yet, because you should have some consequence for death. But later on, once you're in Mars 4 and the full, like, persistent MMO experience, the consequences for death will primarily be that you have to... A colonist won't die, but a colonist will enter a cryogenically frozen state in his suit because reasons that result in better gameplay. So your colonist will be down but not out somewhere on your land, and you'll have to come in with another colonist or hire another colonist to come and rescue your body and bring it to a medbay, and then you'll be revived. So your colonist will never outright die, but it kind of adds kind of a logistical pain in the ass. Can you sum up the types of resources we could find at a land and hint to what type of lands are more likely to be found in regards to what they are? Should we check scientific maps on the web? Yes, you should check scientific maps on the web, because that's what we're doing. when we're deciding these things. It hasn't been decided exactly yet, so oddly enough, your best source are those scientific maps you'll find online, but take it with a grain of salt, because remember, we're trying to balance, as I said at the beginning, game design is a compromise. Everything, it's compromise of everything. And we are trying to find a good balance no, I just blanked out. We're trying to find a good balance of realism and fun. It may be realistic that X land plot has 0 resources, but that's really not fun. Like, it's fun, but finding out that your land plot has some unique resource you didn't expect, that is pretty fun. So it's all about finding a good compromise between realism and fun there. So we'll be realistically inspired, but I'm not going to sacrifice fun for realism. You and the team are building the game that teenage me would have killed to have. Thrilled it's better than ever. As I start to scout for lands to purchase, presumably around the budget of about 5K, any suggestions or things that myself or someone like me should contemplate when you're scouting the globe for a colony location? I'd like to play with friends and go the route of extreme collaboration to build an entire community around the land itself. So, my goal is to try and make every land location valuable and interesting to play on and fun to play on. I think the biggest question that I think you should ask yourself in that decision-making process is, what kind of gameplay experience are you looking for? Because the first question, like the first dividing logic, separating, like, logic you can use to break down the question is, do you want something near the poles or near the equator? Closer you get to the poles, lower temperature it gets, but more common ice is. Both frozen water and frozen carbon dioxide. So those are pretty important resources, especially water, because not only do you use it for drinking water, but you also use it to generate hydrogen, which is a primary fuel, as you saw already with the hydrogen generator I showed. So closer to the poles, you will find more of that. However, average temperature will be lower, and that makes surviving those elements harder. Also, as you saw, because I died by not paying attention to my ambient temperature. So that's an important determining factor. I think, personally, for myself, I went pretty close to the equator and clustered my lands together, because my objective is kind of what you said, just play with friends. And I wanted to be a bit closer to the equator because I didn't want to be needing to worry about roughing it with the temperatures so much. However, I may buy 1 or 2 lands on an equator if I get an opportunity, just so I could have some, like, mining outpost for ice there. But I think what I think would be the most important is look at the actual visuals of the land NFT and see what kind of environment you would like to work with. For example, one of my lands that I quite like, I have a really big crater which covers like about 30% of my land, and then there's a mountain range, and then there's kind of a flat patch. And I personally really like that for the building elements. I can use the flat patch to build like a nice colony. And sure, I need to traverse the mountain range to get into that crater, but that crater will be a great source of frozen ice and carbon dioxide. So that was kind of a land that has a lot of things I want in it. There's also some lands that I've seen, I don't own one like it, but have like chicken pox of craters, which is pretty cool. I like that idea as well, being able to build little bases in craters. But I think that's, once you make a decision of how close you want to be to the equator or the poles in regards to temperature and ice, then I think your next decision is just actually looking at the individual lands and see what would be a cool one to build a base on. That's my advice, at least. Next question, will there be a central station lander space where players can mingle? Eventually, yes. However, the initial plans is to get everyone out and just surviving on their lands. That's kind of the first step. We want to get as many people experiencing that gameplay and giving feedback as possible. In the lore of Mars 4, which you'll actually learn about in Mars 1, in the intro to Mars 1, there is a station that people go through before they arrive on the surface of Mars. I'm not going to say any more than that, because I don't want to spoil the intro. But, yeah. That covers everyone's questions, both from Discord and here on Twitch. Does anyone have anything they would like to add before the end? Can we set airlock doors to close automatically? Or can you only open one door if the other is closed? Also, do larger rooms take more time to be pressurized? Yes, larger rooms do take more time to be pressurized. And as I explained earlier, the time a room is being pressurized burns a lot more energy than maintaining the pressurization. So the bigger the room, the more important that you properly use your airlocks. Yes, we will include some doors that are automated. But right now, for Mars 1, the doors are manual, so it's up to the player to open one, enter, close it behind him, and then open the next one. So it's basically, for Mars 1 at least, it will be on the players to use proper airlock protocol. Have a good evening. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.